Hey guys, today I'm going to be showing you about square roots and cube roots. Okay, so the first thing you need to know is how to use a calculator. So I'm just going to quickly show you the buttons on the calculator and how they work. Okay, now your calculator does not need to be exactly like this. It does not matter if it's not the same color, if it doesn't have all of the buttons, because this is a different calculator. Okay, it should just look similar to this. Okay, it should be a scientific calculator, not the ones you get on your phone, guys. Please get a real calculator. Okay, now on most calculators, you're going to need two buttons, squaring and square rooting, cubing and cube rooting, okay? Now, if your calculator is messy, you've got some random buttons on there, I'm just going to show you how to switch it on. I want you to go to menu setup or something about menu setup on the top of your calculator and click 1. Okay, that's just calculate. It should be in normal GCSE settings, okay? Now, if I zoom in here, these two buttons are my main buttons that I'm going to use today, okay? This is the square button and this is the square root button. Now, if I click shift here, this shift button will get me all of these yellow signs at the top, okay? So if I wanted to work out cube, I would click shift and then the square root button. Okay, if I wanted cube root, I would do shift and then the cube root button, okay? But I'll show you a bit more how to use this in a second. Now, one key thing that's very important is I want to show you something. If I do 3 multiplied by 3, I get 9, okay? If I do minus 3 multiplied by minus 3, I've got two minuses, so they cancel out, so I get 9. So if I was to do the square root of 9, I could get a positive or a negative 3, okay? Because really and truly, positive times positive could get me the 9, so could the negative times negative. So if I did the square root of 9, my answer will be positive 3 or negative 3. Now this plus minus sign just means it could be plus 3 or minus 3. Okay, so that's what the plus minus sign means. Now what is square rooting? You've got your square numbers. What are your square numbers? You've got 1 squared, which is 1 times 1. You've got 2 squared, which is 2 times 2. And I'm going to give you a second because this is very useful to write out. 3 squared, 4 squared, 5 squared, 6 squared, 7 squared, 8 squared, 9 squared, 10 squared, 11 squared, 12 squared, 13 squared, 14 squared, 15 squared. Now, to do really well in GCSEs, you should know these off the top of your head like this. I cannot flick with my fingers, but just ignore that. Imagine I could, okay? Now, let's go through these numbers. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16. 5 times 5 is 25. Okay, make sure you're jotting these down. 6 times 6 is 36. 7 times 7 is 49. 8 times 8 is 64. 9 times 9 is 81. 10 times 10 is the easiest one, 100. 11 times 11 is 121. 12 times 12 is 144. 13 times 13 is 169. 14 times 14 is 196. And 15 times 15 is 225. Okay? So we've got 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, 100, 121, 144, 169, 196, and 225. You should know these off by heart, okay? Don't worry, the more questions you practice, the better you will know them, okay? But maths becomes very easy once you know these off the top of your head, okay, guys? Now, these are called your square numbers, and these are special numbers. Why? Because the same number has been multiplied twice to give you these numbers, so they are called your square numbers, okay? Now, the opposite of square number is square rooting, okay? So the square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 25 is 5. The square root of 49 is 7. The square root of 100 is 10. The square root of 144 is 12, okay? This is the opposite of squaring, which is square root. And I'll get this button right here. If I click square root of 49, that will give me 7. Okay? Now, let's have a look at cube numbers. What are cube numbers? Now, square numbers, it multiplies by itself twice. But cube numbers, it will multiply by itself 3 times. And the only numbers you need to know for GCSE are these ones here. 1 cubed, 2 cubed, 3 cubed, 4 cubed, 5 cubed, and 10 cubed. Okay, so let's jot them down. 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. And 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000. Okay? So now, just like the opposite of cube numbers, I can do cube rooting. Okay? So cube rooting is the same. Square root button with a mini 3 in the corner. So the cube root of 125 is going to be 5. The cube root of 8 is going to be 2. Now, the only number that's slightly tricky you need to be wary of is 64 because it comes twice. So the square root of 64 is 8, but the cube root of 64 is 4. Okay, so be very careful. Okay? Now, if I check on my calculator, there we go. If I did the square root, If I did the square root of 64, I would get 8. However, if I want to do cube root, I click shift. And then on top of the square root button, I've got the cube root button. So I've got mini 3 in the corner, okay? So I type in 64, and the cube root of 64 is going to be 4. Okay, you see that? All right, that's how to use it on the calculator. Now, a couple questions. Square root of 225, 15. Cube root of 27, 3. Okay, so just quiz yourself on some numbers. Now I'm going to show you how to do these on a calculator, okay? So I've got some questions for me to do on a calculator. And I'm just going to jot them down, let you guys have a go at them. You can pause this video, come right back, and I'll go through the answers, okay? So let's do these with a calculator, please. So I've got 19 squared. I've got 12.1 cubed. I've got 20 cubed. I've got the square root of 120. I will get decimal places for some of these square roots. I've got the cube root of 70. I've got the cube root of 400. I've got the square root of 576. These are just some practice questions. Okay, now pause and I'll go through them. All right, I hope you pause, guys. All right, 19 squared. I'm going to type in 19 and I'm going to click on the squared button. That's 361. Okay, so tick if you got that right. Now I've got 12.1 cubed, so 12.1 and cubed is shift. And I've got the cube right there. Okay. Equals to 1771.561. So 1771.561. I've got 20 cubed, so 20 to the power 3. Oh, sorry. Shift square, that's shift. There we go. That's 8,000. Now, square root of 120. So I'm going to click the square root button and 120. Now, I've got 2 root 30 here. What do? This isn't a decimal number. I need it to be a decimal number. Now, you guys are going to have this button called SD. Okay, always click it if you need to look for your decimal. It will switch between your decimal and your surds or your fractions. So if a fraction came up, I would click it to get my decimal. Okay, so this is going to be 12.95. 12.95 to 2 decimal places. Cube root of 70. So again, shift and the square root button, which is going to give me cube root of 70, which is going to be 4.12. 4.12 to 2 decimal places. Cube root of 400. I'm going to do shift cube root of 400, which is going to give me 7.368. So 7.37. 7.37 to 2 decimal places. And the square root of 576. Square root of 576 is going to be 24, whole number. Okay? Well done if you got these correct, guys. So that's how to do square numbers, square roots, cube numbers, and cube roots. Okay? Thank you.